It's a roster that's absolutely up there with some of the best in the league. I think our roster, kind of the point today, this roster is going to look different after the trade deadline. This roster is going to look different come the postseason.
I would strongly disagree with the idea that it's up there with one of the best in the league. This is a very mid position player roster in my opinion. But, I mean, it's also coming off a season where they had, just Trey Turner there chilling, Cody Bellinger, who they hoped would be, still at least carry the MVP pedigree with him. In the year before, you had, a World Series MVP and Corey Seager as your shortstop. You had Justin Turner in the lineup for 10 years. Now there's random bodies and names and dudes that need to establish themselves, particularly with Vargas and Outman. I'm not a massive fan of the roster. I think it's not questionable. It's intriguing, but I don't think it's the greatest roster you're going to see out there. And I don't even think it's a top 10 roster, to be honest.
Really, I would definitely disagree with you on that point. I think that we've become a little jaded when you look at this roster. I mean, think about the 2017 team. You didn't have any of that upper echelon top 5, 10 talent. This team has Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts.
In 17, you had Bellinger, you had Seager, you had the legendary Austin Barnes.
But those aren't top 10 players. I mean, even that season, there weren't top 10 players. I mean, Freddie Freeman is a bona fide MVP candidate. I mean, Seager
maybe not a top 10 is a bit too much. I
love that. 2017 is my favorite team of all time.
Top 7 offense is what I'm looking at right now. Top 7 position player roster is what I'm looking at right now. Top 7.
That sounds kind of fair. I think you look at the NL East and the Braves and the Mets and the Padres, of course, in the NL West. I still think when you look at the talent of this team, it just depends on a lot of things. If you're going to get a bounce back year from Max Muncy and All-Star year, that changes things. If JD Martinez, we haven't even talked about yet, as a designated hitter, he's a guy who his power numbers have gone down. He's had some home run droughts, and he's another guy that's not punishing mistakes like we've seen in the past. Is he one of the best pure hitters in the game at this point? I think he's looking to prove that once again this season. So if he's a guy that looks the part and is more like the JD Martinez from 2019, that also changes the conversation. If James Outman is a guy that can be in the Rookie of the Year mix, along with Miguel Vargas, if he can live up to his potential. So you can't really say with full confidence that this team is unequivocally an elite team, but there's a lot of potential in this roster, and we haven't even mentioned Will Smith, who is the best hitting catcher in the league.
The keys are, what you're going to get out of Mookie and out of Freddie. Is Will going to take that next step? Because he had a good year last year, but it was a little bit of a step back from 21. So can he take that next progression forward and solidify himself as the guy? Hey, this is a guy that Dave says is going to hit third for this lineup. And he's a catcher. He's not going to be in there every day. We know this, but there's a lot riding on this dude for sure. And then so much riding on the idea that Max Muncy could return to that all-star form. There's so many question marks, and that's what gives me a hard time saying, like, yeah, I'm all in on it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not completely all in on this team is going to win the World Series or anything like that. I think they're going to have as good of a chance early in the year to have one of the best records in the league, because we know the Dodgers have the formula to win in the regular season and vie for that division championship. But I do think my prediction is this team is going to run out these guys they have. They're going to see from a run production standpoint what they have. And if they're going to bolster, they're going to do it in the outfield. My prediction is they will trade for an upgraded bat in the outfield, because there's not big shortstop names out there. Willie Adames most likely is not going to happen. Even Willie Adames offensively.
Put that pipe dream to rest for sure.
Yeah, put that pipe dream. And I also think they trust Rojas defensively. So
and you're not going to see Tim Anderson. You're not going to see those type of dudes.
Yeah, and honestly, those guys, even though they're good hitters, they're still not going to. I think they need another slugger, if anything. That's what they would be looking at. I think, look, Brian Reynolds is a guy, lots of years of team control left. They would have to give up a lot for him. But if they truly believe this is a World Series contending team, they're going to have to add another bat at some point during this season. But look, you always have to remember there's a lot of talent on this team. If they signed Freddie Freeman last offseason, you'd feel good about it. If they signed Mookie Betts, and those are still two of the best players, they stay healthy, Will Smith emerges, Max Muncy has a bounce back here, JD Martinez, there's still so much. I sound like that Freddie Freeman thing. He's like, I still name all-star on this team and this and that. So
yeah, I mean, anything that helps you sleep at night,
after that UCLA last one, we'll be sleeping for like a month.
Bruh.
But yeah, I mean, I think
there's your position player side of things. You know, you talked a little bit about JD, and I agree with what you say. Like, there's a lot riding on JD where he needs to get back to being just dingers or even just doubles. He needs to be a consistent run producer in that 5 or 6 hole, most likely in the 5 hole in the lineup. He ain't fast. He's not going to provide you any value on defense anywhere. But if he can get into a spot where he's hitting, and helping the kids, you know, somebody like Miguel Vargas, who's already kind of turned to him as a mentor in the hitting side of things. If he could be that guy, if he can be the unofficial coach on there and provide some pop, doesn't need to be an all-star. He just needs to provide some pop, stay healthy, provide some pop.
Yeah, for sure. We got some comments in here. Diane Schroeder says, I'm going to go 20 plus on Outman. Mike Saldana agrees with you. You didn't say this roster is weak, but Mike Saldana said this roster is weak. Sarah Moore says, no, it's an average roster. I don't know how you can say it's an average roster. You're saying this is the 15th best roster in Major League Baseball. I mean, look at the win, the Pacoda, and everything like that. I mean, this team is still in the mix to be a World Series contender.
There's the projections do give it some love, but there's just, I don't know. I think it's such a seismic shift from what we've seen over the last 5 years and how much things have changed over that time. I don't love it, but I can learn to love it.
I think they have a lot to prove. They have to win you over, and I think that you can't. I like to be very Michelada half full optimistic, but still, I mean, we're going to need to see something and real results early on to truly assess what this team is. But the talent is there and the potential is there, and I think that this year you're going to see the young guys emerge. But we got roster of Team Canada was better from Mike Saldana. Craig Osterberg predicting 95 wins. Sermon King, I agree with you. Never lose faith in Friedman. He'll upgrade the roster as he sees fit as the season goes on. Yeah, that's the thing too. You give yourself the flexibility of making a move, but then I think the big question there is, do they see the golden goose at the end of the tunnel in Shohei Ohtani? How active will they be if they think that it could risk that at any point? So that's kind of the big question I have, but I still see this team competing for a World Series and going all in on a World Series and being aggressive, and I think the fact that they're still willing to absorb salary and not try to shed salary, it lets you know that this team is still committed to winning another ring.
You want them dubs.
Them dubs.
Mookie said rings. He's here
Plural.
for rings. JD Martinez says he's here to win a title. This is a team that wants to win. They got
85 win roster,
but I mean, win 85. I wouldn't be terribly surprised if they win.
86 is the magic number. Remember,
this is true. This is your number. If they win like 104, I wouldn't be terribly surprised. There's just so much on this scale.
Should we throw out our win predictions yet?
No,
Monday.
Monday is going to be the win predictions. We're already going. I already owe Cody a lot of money because we said this was going to be a 45-minute show, and we're at like 57 on the live time. So we're having a good time with you guys. This is fair. So there's your position player side of things. I do want to talk. I know we want to talk a bit about the pitching side of things because the entire pitching staff is now set. We already talked about the starting rotation. I don't think there's any major questions to add to that, but let's dive into the relievers because I want to hear you talk about the core of relievers here, starting at the top with Evan Phillips.
Yeah, Evan Phillips, of course, established himself as one of the best relievers in the game, but I will caution that with, hey, relievers are volatile from year to year. You just never know what you're going to get. Brandon Morrow, we've seen examples of guys not having it the very next season, but I think he's a guy that is going to have a great season. Now, I think not having an established closer and knowing that he is going to be a guy that could get more saves this year is going to be interesting to see because, yeah, he definitely looked good when he was a closer, but they need to use him in those high leverage situations. Alex Vesia, the top left-handed reliever coming out of the pen. Yency Almonte, he's a guy that was another breakout discovery by the Dodgers. Yency Almonte. Brusdar Graterol. What are your thoughts on Brusdar, your friend? I don't know if you guys seen the clip of
Hey, Brusdar, que paso?
That's a good song.
This is a big year for the Bazooka, man, because he's been solid over his Dodger career, but he usually, coming in 6th, 7th, 8th, whenever, like they've babied him in a way where, yeah, I mean, he's faced some of the best hitters. He's faced Tatis and Machado in the biggest situations, but they also would prefer to kind of have him maybe throw against the. So I ask you, one biggest concern. I think I already laid mine out, because to me, a biggest concern is the bullpen, but also is the outfield. So I'm going to use the outfield part as mine. What is your biggest concern for this roster heading into opening day, knowing full well that this is not the team we're going to see in October if they make it?
So as far the way I look at it, as I look at the big picture, I look at the World Series and the postseason, and we know, look at last year, this bullpen, they needed a piece. They went out there and got Chris Martin, and he was dominant, right? The outfield, I think I agree with that, but I'm not going to say that one because you did, and that's another. You can go out there and find a bat. To me, I still look at the starting rotation as, if I'm thinking of the World Series, Kershaw's injury history. Dustin May's unproven. Ryan Pepiot's unproven. Noah Syndergaard, is he going to be a number 1 or 2 or 3 in a World Series winning team? Tony Gonsolin's injury issues. I still look at that starting rotation. Now, do we address that internally and Gavin Stone comes up and he becomes a dude? Does Walker Buehler come back and he provide multiple innings of work out of that pen and be a guy that can be lights out late in games and high leverage situations? Yes, that's possible. But I think that if I look at long term, yes, the offense is going to take a dip because you lose Trey Turner and Gavin Lux, of course, he's injured out for the season, and they need some more depth in the outfield and some more pop in those bats. But the bullpen, once they get Daniel Hudson back, you get a little more stability.
Yeah.
Evan Phillips. Once I see Evan Phillips and I realize that he's the same guy as last year, I'm going to feel better about this bullpen. So I still think to win the World Series, Dodgers need another ace-level starter.
It's a good point. I mean, the bullpen, it kind of already has built-in trades along the way, because you have maybe Blake Trinan at some point in time, but you have Dan Hudson. Maybe you have a Jimmy Nelson. Maybe you have a JP Fireeisen. Maybe you have a Walker Buehler by September. Like there's a lot of upside there, but like right now, 1 or 2 guys get hurt in September. Oof. I mean, not September, the other one. The one that's coming up, April. Woof.
Yeah. And also, too,
man, so far ahead. They got the months all wrong. April and September.
What you know about planning my October vacation already?
Like, damn, bro.
I mean, look. I mean, I think to me the fear I get, the way they can play the matchups from a bullpen standpoint, get guys in situations where they know they can have success. I trust them to do that from a position card standpoint, from not being able to use the shifts. And we know the Dodgers shifting close to 40% of the time. They did it better than any team in the league. They were in the conversation of one of the best teams. Not going to have that benefit this year,
Yeah.
but I also think you can find guys, you can develop guys. There's still a lot of talent in this organization. I look at this outfield, and other than Mookie, the reality here is this, Clint. Other than Mookie Betts, he's the only guy, even with James Albin, who we support and we want to have success, and David Peralta and some of these other guys. Mookie Betts is the only guy you can trust to be an above-average bat out of 6 outfielders. I mean, just think about what we're saying here. So to me, I think the outfield, at the beginning of the season, I'm looking at run production. Last year, they left a lot to be desired. And even a Joey Gallo, a guy they brought on, right? Joey Gallo, at least they knew he could give you pop off the bench, and that was the goal. Whereas Jason Hayward, at his best day, is not going to be doing that.
No. There's just
talking myself into a 60-win season. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just
again,
playing.
the more you actually start like really breaking it all down, there's just so many like, oh yeah, there's a lot of ifs. There's so many ifs. This is a season of ifs. And, I'm all for it, because I do believe that if things don't go well, Andrew Friedman's can go out there and find a way to fix it, because that's what he does. And they have some talent. And, I'm sorry, he's a good friend of yours. Diego Cartaya could find himself a new job at some point if they feel like they have the opportunity to win a World Series this year.
Land on his feet.
But that was our preview show, guys. We appreciate you hanging out with us.
Great show.
Sorry for, I guess, making it so drab and downtrodden, if that's the word. If those are the words I'm looking for. It's just there's questions, there's concerns, and
our responsibility is objectivity, right?
Hey, that's fair. And what makes it though? It makes it a lot funner for a lot more fun for people like us who cover this team to have things to speak down upon, because it's honestly boring covering an 111 win team. So be ready for all of the Angry DN post games you guys can handle, because that comes back next week. We're going to be here probably doing Blue Heavens twice a week through the regular season.